Hi everyone. The experience is just fantastic. Hi everyone, Karina Schuster here. So today we are with Kubla. Welcome to another episode on Sci-Tech Swiss. Today I have the honor to be interviewing Alisa Alexieva.
Hi everyone, I'm the CMO at Kubla and head of Web3, as well as a founding member of Women in Web3, as well as a board member there.
Amazing. And we actually were speaking on the same panel at the Web3 Hub event in Davos about marketing and education strategies. And today we are about to learn more about your story, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about your beginnings and how did you transition from the fashion industry to Web3?
Yeah. So I started working when I was about 14 in restaurants and bars. And then I studied marketing and I moved to New York when I was 22. Still working in restaurants and bars and being financially independent of my family since I was 21.
Cool.
And so working in that industry kind of prepared me for anticipating people's needs. That's a skill that I really recommend everybody to evolve in themselves. It's something that's come in handy in my life in many different ways. So when I moved to New York, I was bartending, and then I did a couple of internships in fashion just to get my foot in the door, and then finally landed a job at Ralph Lauren, where I was for about 4.5 years in the apparel industry. So the apparel industry is very, it has a specific language. So you will learn about types of fabrics, types of yarns, types of stitches, all of those kinds of things you get to know over time. And then so after about 4.5 years of being there, I decided I want to learn a new language, and that's in footwear and accessories. And in my knowledge of understanding what people want, I found a job that I really wanted. It was at a company called Fry. And we made boots just like yours.
Okay, I can't really show that. I tried to.
And I really wanted this job, and I thought to myself, how are they going to hire me? Why are they going to choose me over somebody else? And I didn't know anything about footwear. I didn't know that language. I just had the apparel side, and accessories I didn't know either. And one thing I learned from Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, is that men apply for jobs that they're only 60% qualified for, and women only apply for jobs that they feel that they're 100% qualified for.
Wow.
So when I read that statistic, and there's actually someone that I used to work with at Ralph Lauren that would always say, the world is unfair, but let it be unfair in my favor. And I was always kind of like that, that kind of always nagged me a little bit, and I was like, you know what, but he's right. It is unfair, and not to take anything away from anyone, I've always thought, you know, there's
This should be your drive, I think. You know,
Yeah.
this should motivate you to actually, you know, push forward and to do more.
Yeah. So when I learned the statistic about men and women and how they apply for roles, it gave me the confidence, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm up against like men who are very underqualified, and I'm also against women who are overqualified but are potentially too shy or too afraid to come forward. So I said to myself, I'm going to use this as my opportunity. So knowledge is power, and I use this as my power. I'm going to qualify myself, and I'm going to prove to them that I can do this job. So I did. So I created an
Give me 5.
I created an entire like hand-woven worksheet of the work that I would be doing, and I dropped it off to the office, and I said to them, like, I really want this job. And
that's the attitude that I want to see. Exactly. Yeah.
So I got it. And so a couple years later, long story, but I ended up trading crypto. I started learning about, because I decided for myself I wanted to become a millionaire. And my friend was trading crypto, so he taught me a little bit, and then he said, you need to learn on your own. So I started watching YouTube videos, reading Wikipedia pages, what's crypto, what's blockchain, what's Web3, how do you use it, what's a market cap, what are candles, how to read them, how to read day trades. So I did that, and then I started trading crypto, and then I earned some money, and it was super exciting, and there was so much energy around it.
But when was that actually? At the beginning, or?
That was actually only in 2021.
Okay.
So mid-2021, I started trading crypto. And then end of 2021 is when the NFT hype started.
Exactly, yeah, we remember.
And I have one of my best friends, we were living in New York, I was living in New York at the time. One of my best friends is an incredible mural artist. And she said to me, hey, it's NFT week here in New York. Do you know what NFTs are? And I'm like, yeah, like I guess I know. And she was working at these exclusive NFT parties, like at the after parties. She was hosting at some of the bars there. And she was asking, like, you know, the people who are coming to these events, hey, like, how do you do it? You know, like, I'm an artist, should I be doing this? Should I be getting in on this? And there was one guy who was like, oh, why don't we go out for brunch and I can teach you about NFTs. And she calls me and she says, hey, I'm going out for brunch with this guy. Do you want to come? Because I know you want to learn about NFTs as well. So I show up at this brunch with my notebook, and he thinks he's on a date, and I'm interviewing him about how to launch an NFT project.
All right, so whenever you want to start doing anything, you should probably, instead of, asking a person on a date, you should probably just say, hey, let's bring our notebooks and let's learn something together, or probably interview that person.
Yeah.
I was also thinking it might be a good tactic, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I was single at the time in New York, and on my dating profile, I said, teach me about crypto. And I just had guys messaging me tips, and I'm like, this is great free education.
Okay. I couldn't say any more, guys, take notes, because, or I actually can say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm allowed to say that. It's fine.
Welcome to Sci-Tech Swiss, the fastest growing world-class podcast of all times. We're kicking off the new year with a sponsorship drive during the WIFE Week in Davos with an exciting ad campaign with Ringier. Karina, over to you, and tell our audience how they can hitch their wagon to our star.
Become a sponsor for the next episode, or we produce one for you in our professional studio. Find us on premierswissmedia.com.
So anyway, we launched an NFT series. It was a huge learning experience. We were on Twitter Spaces every day. We did whitelists. We worked with guys who had Bored Apes to create a minting page for us. And that was all brand new. Everything that we were doing is brand new, like as of 2021. And so the entire process was so exciting for me, because I felt like I was a part of something that was continuously evolving. And for me, that gave me so much energy. And so the next thing that happened was the guy at this brunch ended up being a VC, like a big VC guy in the Web3 world. And he's like, hey, you want a job in marketing in Web3? Like, I'll introduce you to some companies. And one of them was Art Meta. So my friend and I, with this project, we went to Art Basel in Miami in 2021.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. And I met with the founder and CEO of Art Meta. And this is another time where I applied the rule of, or remembered the stat about men who apply for 60% of a qualified role versus women. So when I interviewed, he was like, hey, so you have never worked in art before, and I'm building an art metaverse. You've never worked on a metaverse before, and you haven't really worked in marketing because you were doing product before. And I'm like, okay, those are the things that I'm unqualified for. Here are the things that I am qualified for. I know what crypto is, I've traded it, and I've learned about blockchain. I know what Web3 is, I know the tech that's behind it, I know what minting is, NFTs, how it works, how to build an NFT collection. And I'm like, you're not gonna find many people who can do that because this thing just started.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. That was a huge hype back then, and not a lot of people were actually fully qualified as they might be now.
Exactly, and then the other thing that I brought into this interview process was the anticipation of people's needs, like I was mentioning before. I put myself in his shoes, and I think this is something that that I think comes more naturally to women, and I think it's a leg up that we have in business that we can do better than men, is this empathy and understanding what people need.
That's right. Yeah, that's our feminine role or feminine side, where our feminine side is coming to play.
Yeah, and so I understood that for the CEO, he also was taking a risk. He had to interview a bunch of people. He was taking a risk in who he was going to hire, and because this was a completely new arena to play in and do marketing in, it was going to be a risk either way. So for me, I could see those risks that he was taking, and I said to him, hey, let's take the pressure off and let's just do it on a trial basis. I don't need to sign any contracts. We can work together for me to prove myself. And I think that's the other thing. It's like with women who feel 100% confident about doing a role, they feel like, okay, once I step into this role, I'm delivering what I have already learned. Whereas a man would come into a role and learn and be paid to learn, you see? And so in understanding that, I said to him, I'm like, there is a lot to learn, and I'm open to learning, and I want to learn. And I think that was also part of my success, because I genuinely was excited to learn about this topic. And so I went above and beyond in my work. So I wasn't fully prepared, it's true. But every day I would learn. If I was in a meeting and they were talking about KYC or anything to do with, we were launching a token, I would write down all the words I didn't understand. I wouldn't put my hand up, but as soon as we were done with the meeting, I would Google all of them, right?
Probably during a break, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a smart move, actually. Yeah.
I would write all the definitions, make sure I understood them, and then in the next meeting, I would use those words. And then so all of a sudden, I became this 100% qualified person. And I think that's the takeaway, that those are the two key things for me that I want every woman really to take away with them. A, you don't have to be 100% prepared. You should always leave room to grow. And B, really step into your feminine energy. What makes you a woman makes you more qualified for the role. Being able to have that empathy element, being able to anticipate people's needs, you can actually use that to your advantage to help you serve them better, and also to understand your clients and customers better. Hey, what do they need and how can I deliver that? And then speak to that directly. And then that you could be wrong, but you could speak to that, ask questions, and always leave room to grow.
Exactly, I totally agree with that. And when did you come the first time, to Switzerland? I know that you probably traveled, in different areas of the world. And also, what actually led you to Web3, and how did you start, your career here at Kubla?
Yeah, so I started working for Meta. I got the job, and I when I said to the CEO, we don't have to make any commitments, within a month he was like, here's a contract.
Okay, yeah, that's the part that I wanted to ask, exactly.
Yeah, so that was great, and I was at that company for 1.5 years, and starting at zero in terms of Web3 and learning and doing an ICO, doing a token launch, marketing a metaverse, and doing all the research that comes with it, I learned an incredible amount. And the cool thing is, I was able to represent the company at Asia Metaverse Conference, at the WEF, at CV Summit, at...
You were also at the CV Summit last year, right?
Yes.
And we didn't really cross each other's ways.
Damn.
Yeah, right? The word is, I feel like the word is so small, you know, but what makes me happy, as, you know, Marta was saying, she was on the same panel with us, that, you know, it actually makes me happy seeing more women, you know, increasing, you know, numbers, you know, of women in technology, you know, and in this, you know, during these kind of events.
Yeah.
That's what makes me happy personally as a woman.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I started working for this company called Art Meta, and they're based in Zug. And so the idea was for me to move here so that I can be more present in the company events. And eventually I did, and eventually I met my partner, who lives in Liechtenstein, which is now where I live. And that's kind of how I made my way here. And then just through the network of the Web3 world here, which is quite small, I feel like we kind of all know each other. I met the guys at Kubla, and then I started working here in July last year. My first order of business was to do a little rebrand and then redo our website, because when I was talking to them, they initially just wanted to hire me as their head of Web3. And in asking them a bunch of questions about what they do and who they are and how long they've been doing it, they've launched the company in 2009, and you know, there are so many milestones that they hit. I was like, none of this is on your website. How would anybody know this?
Exactly. You need to know how to represent yourself, how to play your cards right.
Yeah.
But also in terms of digital marketing strategies, what are a couple of use cases that you can share with us, you know, and what kind of, you know, strategies did you learn so far?
Yeah, I mean, just to finish close the loop on Kubla, so I did the rebrand and the website for them, like highlighting all the firsts that they achieved. And in digital marketing, that's really the core competency of the company. That's what that's what the company was born on. In me being involved in the Web3 arm of the company, it's really about Web3 marketing and everything that involves. Because if a company has a token, you have a segmented audience. So you have the audience that's interested in your product, and you also have the audience that's interested in the growth of the token, and you have to speak to those two audiences very differently, and you have to feed those audiences very differently. So that's one thing that we always consider when we work with our Web3 clients. And yeah, just to go back to the firsts that we achieved at Kubla in the Web3 world, and I wasn't here, but in 2014, Kubla co-built the first Bitcoin ATM. Yeah, and like, you know how when you hear stories about people entering Web3 or crypto, they're like, yeah, I entered in 2017, you're like, wow, that was early. And then,
yeah, that was early, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then when you think that Kubla did it in 2014, to me that's wow, that says like, you guys have known what's up for a while.
Exactly, and they should actually, I wouldn't say advertise that, but they should actually mention that on their website and everywhere. It's, you know, it's really important.
We do now. We have a timeline on our About Us page, and in that timeline, every year we've achieved a first.
I actually saw that. I was just walking through.
Yeah. And yeah, there's some really cool things that we've done over the years, and definitely check that out.
Definitely, yeah. And also another thing that I wanted to ask you is, how did you get into the Women in Web3 here in Switzerland, and what are your achievements there?
Yeah, that's a really it's a cool story. So I guess so. I've made my 2 points, and my very third one is about showing up. Showing up in life, like just go somewhere. Go to a class, go to a meetup, go to a networking event, go to an event. Like, there's always there's something that will always happen just when you show up. Like, if you're there, you're putting yourself in opportunity's way. So when I first moved here, I obviously didn't know anyone except for the people I was working with, and then like the people that I was meeting through the network. And I would just go to like tech events or like crypto events, and then I would just start talking to people. And one of those people was in 2022 was Victor, and who at the time was just forming Swiss NFT Association. And a few months later, he reached out to me and was like, hey, me and my wife Josephine, we just started Swiss NFT Association. I know that you're like, working with NFTs and Metaverse. Do you want to come speak at our first event? And so that was super cool. And I like did a presentation on the history of NFTs.
I would love to see that presentation, by the way, if you still have it.
Yeah, I still have it. So that was super cool. And then in going to that event, Josephine, the other founder, his wife, introduced me to women in Web3. And at that time, there was 40 women in the group. And Salama Belgali is the founder, who you also interviewed.
Exactly.
So she was hosting these monthly meetups, either in Zurich or Zug, and there was like 10 to 20 of us that would show up. And then it just started growing, and the Telegram group started growing, and people were sharing like discount codes to events to each other, and like meeting up at these events. And it was like, it started like feeling like it was becoming something. So Salama started a weekly Zoom call, and it was more like a formation of like a committee of women who would be the driving force behind like the actions or the steps that we would take for the association. And every week it was like less and less people coming, because like people have commitments, and a weekly call like in the afternoon or the evening was like a lot. But I had no friends. I just moved here, so I had nowhere to be. So this is.
So it's like joining a club in tech and combining some sort of friendship and work at the same time.
Exactly. For me, it was about friendship. For me, it was
I
wanted to align myself with strong women who have the same interests as me in tech and Web3, and I wanted people to hang out with. So for me, it was perfect. A weekly meetup like with strong women, cool. And so each week it was less and less people, until there were 5 of us. That was like after maybe 1 or 2 months of having conversations about where are we taking this, what are we doing. And Salama at one point was like, okay, cool, so the 5 of us, we're the board. We're the ones that have stuck around. And that's exactly my point with showing up. If you continuously show up somewhere, if you're consistent
and you show your commitment,
you will always get results. And it might not be the result that you're expecting. It might be a complete surprise. It might be better. It might be worse. But there will always be a result when you show up. I think it's like there's a quote that like 80% of success is just showing up, and the other 20% is hard work. So
definitely. I think that was actually also real when it comes to in my opinion, also as a journalist, also when it comes to doing your homework. I think that research is also a very important part.
That's true, yeah, exactly. And not knowing something doesn't mean that you won't know it forever.
Or it's not like an etiquette, I think, that, okay, just because maybe you don't really know a lot about crypto, or you don't know about navigating these, new ways of digitalization, it doesn't mean that you won't be there at some point, because, we started from, we don't really come from a background of people who are actually in tech or were in tech or did study tech, but actually we were educating ourselves, and we invested time and energy into that, and commitment, as we were discussing before.
And education is ongoing. It's something that should be a part of your everyday or your every week. And it's a huge part of Kubla. We have Metaverse Academy also, which we launched.
I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah. So we launched Metaverse Academy in 2021. And initially it was all around the hype of the metaverse, and we have like a bunch of meta quests that we have here. People come here for experiences.
What are the kind of experiences that we can have in the metaverse?
So all types. So most of our experiences are on spatial, but it really depends on like the topic as well. Like for example, last year we had a Bayer event where they wanted to know more about the anatomy of the human body. So we made an experience around that. So using the goggles, and it was like kind of an AR experience. So it can be around anything. We also have the Kubla Metaverse Studio, where this is a showcase of all of the metaverses that we've built for different companies, and some highlights are Lalique and Sanitas. Those are two companies that we had built for last year. And you can find that on Spatial. And then we also did a Decentraland build for Credit Suisse. So another example of something that came out of the Metaverse Academy initially is that we were educating these big companies based here in Switzerland, like Credit Suisse and UBS, about the metaverse and about the new tech and NFTs and the relevant topics happening. And then they would hire us to do either their metaverse build or educate their company, or their individuals from their company would come in and we would teach them specifically about that subject. So what I love about Kubla, the DNA of Kubla is really about continuous learning, and we're all encouraged to do that. And I think that is the fundamental element of success today.
Exactly. And walking through the metaverse, I mean, I'm just curious, for example, when it comes to building a metaverse space for either UBS or Credit Suisse or any kind of company, how does the research process, how long does it take to actually be able to bring that into our reality, for example?
Yeah, it depends on the client. So some clients know exactly what they want. They have a concept and they will tell us, this is what we want, and maybe we contribute a couple of ideas, maybe something that they didn't think about. Also in the marketing aspect, what do you do with the metaverse after you launch it? How do you have activations? How do you bring people in there? What do you do in there? And some of them don't have a clue and want us to do the entire conceptual process for them, which is also really fun. And the fundamental aspect of that is knowing what the goal is and what the output they want is, and how they want to connect with their customers there. So, for every client it's different, but it's all about how do we connect with our customers.
Just to wrap up everything, I wanted to ask just the last question that I'm actually asking to all my guests, and it's our favorite question when it comes to technology. Do you think that technology should be perceived as our friend or our enemy, and why?
Technology is definitely our friend. I think every component in life should be seen as a friend. When you see it as an enemy, then you've got your backup and you've got your defenses up. If you see everything and every element in life as a friend, you're open and you can accept things as they come easier. And with AI as the topic right now, and also as the topic that we're mostly teaching about these days, there is a lot of fear around what's going to happen with AI, how it's going to change our lives. But at the end of the day, we are humans and we do serve our own interest in that way. And I trust humanity in bringing AI to a place where it's safe for us to use and where it only serves us. So, friends.
Well, to wrap up the whole situation, I think that, as I was saying also during our panel education, it's, a very, very important tool, maybe the most important tool.
Yeah.
So definitely, it was an honor sharing the stage with you. It was actually great to meet you. It was also a great chance to meet new people there.
Yeah, it was.
And
to
hear about, their use cases and how we can, make a better world together using technology.
Yeah.
So to all our viewers, thank you so much for following us, and
thanks, Karina.